Welcome back to Small Caps. Once again, my name is Kerry Stevenson, and today bringing you an IPO with a difference with somebody I've known for quite some time. His name is Shane Volk. He's the Managing Director of Dundas Minerals. ASX code is DUN. Now, you can go to dundasminerals.com.au to download the prospectus. It will be live on the 27th of September, closes on the 15th of October. So I thought I'd have a chat to Shane and find out who they are, what they're doing. It's all over in the southern Albany-Fraser belt in WA. Shane, great to see you. I've known you for quite some time. You're looking very, very happy over there in WA.
Well, thank you very much, Kerry. Yes, we're COVID-free, or we continue to be COVID-free here in WA, but a very busy week for us here at Dundas. We've just lodged our prospectus today for our initial public offering.
I know, it's very exciting, but I want to, before we get into the deep depths of it, just give us a brief overview, because this is the first time that I've introduced you to our audience. So just give a brief overview of who are Dundas Minerals and where your project is.
Yep, thank you, Kerry. So Dundas Minerals, a company we formed around 12 months ago, myself and Technical Director Tim Horonsky, and we saw an opportunity to acquire a land package, a very prospective package of exploration tenements just south of the Nova nickel mine in Western Australia. We've secured 11 tenements there, an area of around 1,100 square kilometres. So we're a startup explorer, but we've benefited significantly from a large amount of work done previously, Kerry. So we're extremely excited to get on the ground and follow up that work and pursue our own targets that we're building up at the moment.
Okay, so my first question to you would be 1,100 square kilometres. Why wasn't it picked up by somebody? Because you've only recently picked this up, was it last May, June 2020? So haven't had it for that long.
No, absolutely, Kerry. Quite remarkable, really, that this area has gone sort of forgotten about, and was identified by Tim with some help from a friend of his. And we acquired the information and identified the tenements just off the database, the Western Australian Department of Mines database, where all of the historical exploration information is lodged, and we mined that information. The more we looked, the more we were surprised at the opportunity that was there. And all of the previous work really was done before Nova was discovered in 2012. And of course, the thinking about prospectivity of the area, that Fraser Range, the Southern Fraser Range, the thinking around that has changed quite significantly since that time. So here's the opportunity for us really to grab that area.
What's changed? So Shane, first of all, look, two questions here for those, because I'm a very visual person.
Yes.
Where the tenements are is near Esperance, and for those that don't know, that's kind of right down, I guess, on the coast of Western Australia, isn't it? So close to infrastructure. Would that be correct?
Correct. So we're positioned halfway between Esperance and the Nova mine. So we're only 120 kilometres from Esperance, which is a huge advantage for conducting exploration, especially if you compare, say, for example, in the Paterson, which is another hot area for exploration in WA at the moment, or even up in the Pilbara, where you're working quite remotely, you're working in very hot, harsh climates. And also for exploration, there's a lot of cover. So there's a lot of sand and other material sitting above the actual bedrock. Up in those areas, it can be up to a couple of 100 metres. We're working in a much more temperate climate. The cover is only 4 to 10, sometimes 20 metres.
Oh, okay.
So it's the rocks are not so buried, I guess, under the ground. So it's a great area to work in.
You said a moment ago about the opportunity. What do you see is the opportunity of these tenements that you've picked up? And nothing's been done since 2000, because Nova was discovered in 2012. No one's done any work?
Correct. It's quite remarkable when you think about it, that this area has been overlooked. From time to time, others have held it, but they weren't in a cash position or a position to do any work. So already we have 6 initial targets that previous explorers had identified. And one of the targets, for example, is our Jumbuck nickel prospect, where previous explorers recorded, and this was again in 2011, 2010, 11, before Nova, a couple of metres in the bottom of a hole at 0.5% nickel, 10 metres at 0.5% chromium in the same hole, large sulphur anomalies around the hole, electromagnetic conductors, no follow-up. This hole, because nickel prospectivity wasn't really expected in the area, and the previous explorer was looking for gold. So there wasn't gold there. Nickel wasn't considered to be likely. So that was just literally that prospect was left in the filing cabinet. So that's just one of our 6 immediate targets. And we're very excited to get into that target and start drilling after the IPO. Yeah.
So the IPO, just explain how much are you looking to raise, at what price, and what will you be doing with the funds?
Yeah. So initially we're targeting an initial raise of $5 million, which is quite modest, but that will certainly get us started and fund our initial drilling programs. We can take over subscriptions of up to $1 million, which we'll do if there's sufficient demand. And that money, most of it, up to 70%, 65 to 70% of that money, of course, will be targeted for exploration in the ground over the initial 2-year period that we have planned. And of course, we're hoping for immediate success or early success. We always hope for that. But exploration, as you know, Kerry, you can't bank on success. But given the amount of previous work done, the prospects that have been delivered to us, we're extremely hopeful that we'll get some very encouraging results straight up.
Shane, how much work have you got? Because as you say, you pegged it May, June last year. Have you done some soil sampling? What work are you doing right now in advance of the IPO, if any?
A great question. We were fortunate before the IPO to be backed by a very robust group of seed capitalists, and we managed to raise around $1.2 million before IPO in a private raising. Now, we've already started to deploy that money, and again, that money's gone predominantly into exploration. So for the first time, the area has been completely surveyed using a SkyTem electromagnetic survey system. So it's a helicopter-borne system. It looks for undercover or buried conductors, conductive bodies, which are usually can be associated with, for example, sulfides and nickel and copper mineralisation. So that program just finished at the end of August.
Okay.
Preliminary data's in. Looks very encouraging. We just had a technical session. I was telling you before the meeting, we just had a technical session before this interview, and we're quite excited by that preliminary data. The data will be finalised more towards the end of October, and that'll allow us to start generating some new targets. And predominantly, again, these will be nickel, copper type targets. In addition to that, as we speak now, there's 4 gentlemen or a field crew of 4 based in the tenements, and they've started to do a ground-based gravity survey. So the entire tenement package, 1,100 square kilometres, it'll take these 2 crews 2 to 3 weeks to do it, but every 500 metres they'll be taking gravity readings. So we'll have a complete gravity picture of the whole tenement package, and is looking for dense bodies and movements in gravity. So we'll have 3 fantastic data sets to get us off to a running start, firstly to verify the existing prospects, but also to help us identify some exciting new prospects, especially nickel copper prospects. The area's never really been thoroughly explored for those type of deposits before. So it's extremely exciting for us, Kerry. Yeah.
It's quite a big area that you've got, 1,100 square kilometres. And when you think about that, that's pretty big.
Yes, it is.
So did that survey, that helicopter survey, did that manage to sort of, I guess, bring that down to look, here's the areas that we need to focus and put the funds into? Because, you know, with such a big area, it would be very quick to spend a lot of money and potentially not get the results you want.
Well, you've nailed it, Kerry. That's exactly what we're doing. So that's why we gather these big data sets across the whole tenements, which allows us to quickly focus on the areas of interest. Another fascinating thing about, and this goes back to why perhaps these tenements were overlooked previously, is that traditionally this area was heavily vegetated. And we've read the old exploration reports, the old data, and it made comment of how difficult it was to move around the tenements and actually work. But you may recall a couple of years ago here in WA, we had some massive bushfires, and I know that was the case over east as well. But the area was cleared. About 80% of the tenement area has been cleared by a massive bushfire that took place in 2019, 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is just almost a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And this, for example, is why we can conduct the ground-based gravity survey. Nobody else has been able to do it before because the moving around the tenements was difficult.
Sorry, Shane, sorry to interrupt you, but are you saying that, okay, so there was a fire in 2018. Prior to that, would you not have been able to fly that survey across because the vegetation was so dense?
Oh, we could have flown the survey. The SkyTem survey could have been flown.
Okay.
The gravity would have been near impossible to conduct across the whole tenement area. Okay. Very, very difficult. And if it was going to be conducted, it would have had to have taken a long period of time because people would have had to do it all on foot, whereas now they can use buggies and motorcycles to ride through the burnt vegetation. So we've been gifted just a remarkable opportunity, and we're definitely going to make the most of it. Yeah.
Shane, do you think that because of that was because the terrain was a little bit difficult before the fire? Do you think perhaps that's why it was overlooked in the past, because it was difficult?
Yeah, definitely that was one of the reasons that it has been overlooked. And again, it was probably the thinking about the area, the rocks, the prospectivity has definitely moved since those sort of 2010 era to where we are now. And I think it's recognised more so now, and especially after we've certainly had a look at our SkyTem data or our electromagnetic data. There's certainly very encouraging results for prospectivity. We're already seeing conductors shown up. Our Jumbuck prospect, which was flown by a previous company, a very small survey, there's an anomaly there. It's shown up again on our SkyTem, so that's verification. We just can't wait to get the gravity in. The guys are just absolutely
itching
on that gravity data because, exploration's about getting multiple data sets, verifying the same sort of anomaly. So we're doing it exactly the way it should be done. We're almost acting like a big company, but we're a small company, and that's our strength in terms of discovery. Yeah.
A lot of IPOs that come to market do have sort of third-party involvement and previous ownership, et cetera, et cetera. Are yours 100% owned? What's the structure?
Now, that's a very good point, Kerry. I mean, I've looked at many IPOs in the last few months, and so many of them have minority interests. Many of them have legacy royalties, for example, and other interests. Some of them are vended in and given interesting valuations, for example. Our tenements are 100% owned by Dundas. There are no minority interests, so shareholders can be rest assured that when we have a discovery,
I love that. Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? He didn't say if, he said when.
Yeah, so there'll be nobody clipping the ticket. There'll be nobody clipping the ticket. It'll be all available to our shareholders, which of course we're extremely pleased about. Yeah.
What about things like native title, access agreements? We've got any issues around that?
Yeah. Now, and again, very important point, Kerry, that you raised. So the first thing is, remarkably again, and this is again adds to the story, all of our tenements are on vacant or unallocated crown land. So we don't have pastoralists, we don't have farmers, we don't have other groups with any interest in the area that we're exploring on. There is native title, and it's determined native title, which is a benefit. So there's no arguments about who may have native title interests in the area. That's been determined. Most of our tenements sit within the Nudju native title area, and the Nudju area is actually the area where Nova sits. So we're dealing with a fantastic group of traditional landowners. They're very familiar with exploration. They're, of course, familiar with mining. They're supportive, and they've seen the benefits that the mining industry can deliver them as native title holders. So we have, of course, a heritage protection agreement with them, and that sets out the protocols that we go through for exploration, which are quite straightforward and well understood. And down to the south, we have the Jalkarak. And again, they've been wonderful as well. We have a small tenement position in their area, and again, they've been granted native title, and we're working with them on an ongoing basis for access where we need to in that area. So very straightforward again, only a couple of groups to deal with, and so far no problems at all with us obtaining clearances for the work we've done today. So it's all been very good. Yeah.
Well, tick, tick, tick with those ones. You mentioned Nova a minute ago.
Yes.
Is what you're looking at in terms of sort of the nickel deposits, is that along the same sort of geological structure as Nova? Or
yeah, absolutely. So similar type of intrusive nickel deposit. So similar characteristics to that deposit. Definitely we're looking for that. But in addition to nickel, gold. So we have a very large soil or calcrete anomaly going more than 20 kilometres that's anomalous for gold. We have some holes that were drilled way back in 1995. Remarkably, the gold price is around $380 an ounce back then. Some holes were drilled with sort of 1 gram of gold in the bottom of the hole. Of course, wasn't economic back in the day, sort of forgotten about. Again, it sat in the filing cabinet. And actually, interestingly enough, for that prospect, which is called Terra Firma, on the WA database, the holes were not actually logged on the database because in that era, the companies did not have to submit electronic copies of their information.
Yeah, well, it's going back 26 years. They didn't have to, did they?
Mike Northcote, our exploration manager, very diligently downloaded all the historic reports, page after page after page, trawling through the drill logs. Bingo. Comes in, look what I've just found. Remarkable, right? Probably wasn't obvious because others hadn't done the hard work, but Mike had done it, and that's one of our early prospects that we hope to get into. Very exciting.
So that's Mike Northcote, who's your exploration manager.
Correct. Yes, that's Mike. Yes.
As a geologist, has he done much work in this area? Does he know this area quite well?
He's coming up to speed with this area very, very quickly. But if you can grab a geologist that's worked globally, that's seen many different settings, that's been involved in discoveries before, which Mike has been involved in a couple of discoveries in Indonesia, I know of, and also in Laos, I think it was. That's important. The process to discovery is,
right,
and the teamwork involved and the data sets involved and the steps to be taken, the failures along the way and how you recover from those, and then the joys of success. That only comes with experience. And we're so fortunate to have not just Mike, but also Steve Massey, our geophysicist, who I've known for 30 years, ex-Placidome, fabulous guy. Tim Horonsky as well, again, Placidome. So we've got a very technical team, so highly skilled, very technical, all worked globally, all worked around the world, all seen more rocks than most people have, and that's critical. And then there's myself from a commerce background, so I think we've got a great, and our chairman, Mark Chadwick, as well. So we've got a small team, but a very highly experienced team. So it's very exciting. Yep.
Shane, I've known you for a while and there's an underlying excitement about this. So you've got me thinking, all right, he seems to be pretty excited about this. So first of all, congratulations on getting the package together. And secondly, 100% ownership because, as you say, others have had legacy and royalties and all that sort of stuff. So it feels like it's quite clean, but we're running out of time. Yep. I always end up asking this of people. There's investors out there, they're listening. There's a lot of IPOs out there at the moment, Shane. You know that as well as I do. Why Dundas Minerals? Because out of all of them out there, why do you think that investors should be sitting up and going, you know what, that Dundas Minerals, that looks pretty good?
Yes, exactly. And
I want only three.
Three things. Well,
three.
It's very similar to real estate, Kerry. The first, it's really location, but I'll give you more than location. So location is the first thing. So Albany-Fraser probably still remains the hottest exploration area in WA. I think there's a general view is not if the next one is going to be found, the next big one, but who is going to find it. Right. And we're now part of that story. So the first thing is it's the location and the prospectivity where we are. So we've got a package 1,100 square kilometres, extremely prospective. So when you're looking for an exploration company, that's the first thing you have to find. The second thing you want to know is how they're going about their exploration and who the geoscientists are behind the company. So we're going about our exploration, working from the big into the small, and we've already started. We're not raising money to just sit there and think about where might we drill, where might we not drill. So we've already started. We've got great exploration methodology. And the third thing is, and it's always just as critical, is where is the money going? So most of the money will be going into the ground, and it's already started going into the ground. So of our $1.2 million of seed capital, the majority of that money will be spent on the SkyTem survey, which we've completed, and also the ground gravity survey. These are expensive surveys, but we have gone and made the move and spent the money up front because, as you said, or as you inferred, it stops you running around like a headless chook, and it actually focuses you early on the areas of highest prospectivity. So they're the three reasons, Kerry: prospectivity, the geoscience, and the money's going in the ground.
Prospectivity, geoscience, money in the ground. I've got one final question for you, Shane. You got money? Have you got skin in the game, my friend?
Absolutely. So Mr. Horonsky and I, and also Mike and Steve, have got skin in the game without doubt, and Mark as well, our chairman. We put the company together. We put our own money into the company. We'll have around 40, 50, depending on how much we raise, between 40 and 50% of the company when it's listed. So we certainly have, Kerry. Yes.
Shane Volk, Managing Director of Dundas Minerals. As I said at the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, the ASX code will be DUN when they list, probably listing, what do you think, November sometime?
Early November, hopefully, maybe Melbourne Cup Day. Wouldn't that be nice, hey? Now, the rumour is Perth's trying to steal the Melbourne Cup, Kerry. They've got the grand final. Word around town is they're trying to steal the Melbourne Cup.
I don't think Chairman Dan would ever let that happen, but stranger things have happened and the borders are still not open, so who knows? But people can go to dundasminerals.com.au, download the prospectus, check it out. Nova did it before. Dundas Minerals, pretty close by. Check them out, ladies and gentlemen. Shane, thanks so much for joining me on Small Caps today.
Great to talk to you, Kerry, and lovely to see you again. Thank you.